In the vibrant city of Iolu, nestled by the riverbanks, two girls were the heartbeat of their community. Lami and Ada had been friends for as long as anyone could remember. They grew up chasing dreams and each other through the crowded streets, where the aroma of roasted plantains and freshly caught fish filled the air. One fateful evening, under the glow of the streetlights, Lami sat alone by the river, her mind racing. Her best friend Ada, the one she trusted more than anyone, was now engaged to the most powerful man in Iolu. It should have been a moment of joy, yet something dark brewed in Lami's heart. "Why her and not me?" Lami muttered, tossing a pebble into the water. A mysterious voice interrupted her thoughts. "This is why you should never share your good news with anyone, not even your best friend." Lami turned around, startled, but the street was empty. Who had spoken? The warning hung in the air, and Lami couldn't shake the unease it left behind. The city of Iolu buzzed with excitement as the annual festival drew near. Lanterns adorned the streets, and musicians practiced their beats in preparation for the grand celebration. The festival was a time for laughter, reunions, and, for some, new beginnings. It was during this festival that King Obi first laid eyes on Ada. Ada had dressed in her finest, a flowing, emerald green gown that shimmered under the lantern's glow. Her beauty was ethereal, captivating everyone who passed by. She stood by the marketplace, chatting with vendors, her laughter light and musical. Lami was by her side, as always, though she couldn't help noticing the way people's eyes lingered on Ada. They had come to the festival together, but for the first time, Lami felt invisible. The sound of drums signaled the king's arrival. King Obi, young and regal, entered the square with a retinue of guards. His tall frame and commanding presence made him stand out even in the lively crowd. As he surveyed the festivities, his gaze fell on Ada. Their eyes met, and in that moment, the bustling city seemed to fade away. King Obi approached Ada, his steps purposeful. Lami stood frozen, watching as her best friend's life changed in an instant. "You are the most enchanting woman I have ever seen," King Obi said to Ada, his deep voice carrying warmth and sincerity. "May I have the honor of knowing your name?" Ada blushed, her usual confidence momentarily faltering. "My name is Ada," she said softly. The king smiled. "Ada, a name as beautiful as its bearer." Lami stood awkwardly beside them, feeling more like a shadow than a friend. She smiled politely, but inside, a storm was brewing. The days following the festival were a whirlwind for Ada. King Obi wasted no time in visiting her family to express his intentions. He brought gifts, gold bracelets, fine fabrics, and rare spices that left Ada's parents in awe. Lami watched it all unfold from the sidelines. She tried to be happy for Ada, but every smile she forced felt heavier than the last. She thought back to all the times they had dreamed of their futures together. They had planned to conquer the world side by side, but now, Ada was being whisked away to a life of luxury, leaving Lami behind in the shadows. Late one evening, as the city quieted down, Lami sat on the rooftop of her family's modest home. The stars glittered above, but their beauty offered no comfort. Ada had come to visit, eager to share more details about her engagement. "Lami, can you believe it?" Ada said, her eyes sparkling. "King Obi wants me to move into the palace next month. He's already talking about our wedding." "That's amazing," Lami replied, her voice strained. Ada noticed the change in her tone. "Lami, what's wrong? Aren't you happy for me?" "I am," Lami said quickly, forcing a smile. "It's just, everything is happening so fast." Ada reached for her hand. "You're my best friend, Lami. Nothing will ever change that. No matter where life takes us, we'll always have each other." Lami nodded, but her heart felt heavy. For the first time, she doubted the promise they had always shared. Ada's engagement became the talk of the city. Her once simple life was now filled with lavish dinners and royal invitations. Everywhere she went, people treated her with reverence, whispering about her good fortune. Lami found herself increasingly alone. The streets of Iolu felt different now, colder, quieter. She started to avoid Ada, unable to mask the jealousy that consumed her. One evening, Lami overheard two women gossiping in the marketplace. Did you hear about Ada? They say she'll be the youngest queen in Iolu's history. And her best friend? What's her name? Lami? I hear she's still living in that tiny house by the river. Imagine being so close to royalty and yet so far. Lami clenched her fists, their words cutting deep. For the first time, she felt ashamed of her own life. It was then that she met Dyke. Dyke was unlike anyone Lami had ever met. He was sharp-dressed, with an air of mystery that drew people in. He approached her one evening as she walked along the riverbank, her thoughts heavy with envy and regret. "You look troubled," Dyke said, his voice smooth. Lami hesitated, but eventually opened up. She told him about Ada, about her feelings of jealousy, and about the growing rift in their friendship. Dyke listened intently, his expression unreadable. "Jealousy is a powerful thing," he said finally. "It can destroy friendships, or it can be the fire that pushes you to find your own path." "What do you mean?" Lami asked. Dyke smiled. "You don't have to live in anyone's shadow, Lami. You're capable of greatness too, but you need to stop thinking of Ada as your competition." His words lingered in Lami's mind. Was he right? Could she carve out a life of her own, one that didn't revolve around Ada? But there was something unsettling about Dyke, something she couldn't quite place. Weeks passed, and the distance between Lami and Ada widened. Ada's days were filled with palace visits, wedding preparations, and meetings with influential figures, leaving little time for her best friend. Lami, feeling abandoned, buried herself in work at her family's modest shop near the market square. One day, as Lami sorted through goods, Ada appeared at the shop. She was radiant, wearing an intricate beaded necklace, a gift from King Obi. "Lami," Ada greeted, her voice cheerful. "It's been so long. I missed you." Lami forced a smile. "You've been busy with your new life. I didn't want to bother you." Ada frowned. "You're never a bother. I wanted to invite you to dinner at the palace tomorrow. It's a small gathering, but I want you there." Lami hesitated, her jealousy flaring. The thought of being surrounded by Ada's new world made her stomach churn. "I'm not sure I can make it," she said, avoiding Ada's gaze. Ada looked hurt but nodded. "I understand. But please, think about it. You're important to me, Lami." After Ada left, Lami felt a pang of guilt. She wanted to be happy for her friend, but the growing chasm between them felt impossible to bridge. That night, unable to sleep, Lami wandered the streets of Iolu. The city, usually alive with music and chatter, was eerily quiet. Her feet led her to the palace gates, where she overheard voices coming from the garden. Curiosity got the better of her, and she crept closer, hiding behind a wall. She recognized King Obi's voice, low and serious. "I need to ensure the royal bloodline remains strong," he said. "Ada's beauty and grace are unmatched, but I must know if she can bear children." Lami's heart raced. The cold practicality of his words shocked her. She listened as the king and his advisor discussed a private medical examination arranged without Ada's knowledge. Anger bubbled within Lami. How could someone as kind and trusting as Ada be subjected to such humiliation? Part of her wanted to warn Ada, but another part saw an opportunity. A secret she could use to shift the balance of power in their relationship. The next day, Lami confided in Dyke about what she had overheard. "If Ada knew, it would break her," she said, her voice trembling. Dyke's expression darkened. "Then why tell her? Some truths are better left buried. But if you want my advice, use this knowledge to your advantage. It's time you stopped living in her shadow." Lami hesitated. The idea of exploiting the secret felt wrong, but her jealousy was a powerful force. "I don't know," she admitted. "I just want things to go back to how they were before all this." Dyke smirked. "Nothing stays the same, Lami. The sooner you realize that, the sooner you'll find your strength." Lami left the conversation feeling conflicted. The secret weighed heavily on her, and she couldn't decide whether to protect Ada or use the information to level the playing field. As days turned into weeks, Lami's resolve crumbled. Unable to bear the growing resentment in her heart, she made a fateful decision. She shared the secret with Dyke, who promised to handle it discreetly. But Dyke's version of discretion was far from what Lami expected. The next morning, whispers of the king's plans spread across the city like wildfire. Markets buzzed with gossip, and Ada's name was on every tongue. At first, Lami convinced herself she hadn't done anything wrong. But when she saw the devastation on Ada's face, her guilt became unbearable. Ada confronted King Obi, who, blindsided by the public scrutiny, withdrew from her completely. "What's happening?" Ada asked Lami, tears streaming down her face. "Why is this happening to me?" Lami feigned ignorance, but her heart shattered under the weight of her lie. Ada's world collapsed. The wedding was postponed indefinitely, and King Obi's affection grew cold. The people of Iolu, once enamored by her beauty and grace, now whispered cruelly behind her back. Ada retreated to her family's home, where she spent her days in silence. Lami visited once, but the sight of Ada's tear-streaked face made her leave without saying a word. For the first time, Lami realized that her jealousy hadn't brought her satisfaction. Instead, it had robbed her of the one person who had always been by her side. Lami's nights were plagued by nightmares. In her dreams, Ada's voice echoed, asking, "Why did you betray me?" The guilt was suffocating, but she couldn't bring herself to confess. Meanwhile, Dyke's behavior became more sinister. He visited Lami often, pressuring her to seek more power for herself. "You have potential," he said. "Why waste it on guilt? Ada would have left you behind anyway." But Lami couldn't shake the feeling that she had made a terrible mistake aligning herself with Dyke. One evening, Lami encountered an elderly woman selling charms in the marketplace. The woman grabbed her hand and said, "You carry the weight of betrayal. Beware, child. Betrayal has a way of circling back." Lami's blood ran cold. That night, strange things began to happen. She heard whispers in her empty home and felt unseen eyes watching her. It was as if the city itself was punishing her for what she had done. Ada had always been known for her grace, but beneath her quiet demeanor lay an unyielding strength. After days of mourning her lost engagement and the humiliation she had suffered, she decided it was time to fight back. She started by confronting King Obi. "You doubted me without asking me for the truth," she said, her voice steady despite the pain in her eyes. "If this is how you rule, perhaps I was mistaken about your worth." Her words stunned the king, but Ada didn't wait for a response. She left the palace with her head held high, determined to reclaim her dignity. Ada began volunteering in the city, helping women and children who had been cast aside by society. Her kindness and resilience earned her a newfound respect from the people of Iolu. Slowly but surely, she rebuilt her reputation. But even as she moved forward, Ada couldn't shake the feeling that someone close to her had played a role in her downfall. One afternoon, as Ada walked through the market, she spotted Lami. It had been weeks since they last spoke, and the sight of her old friend brought a rush of emotions: sadness, anger, and longing. "Lami!" Ada called out. Lami froze, her heart pounding. She had been avoiding this moment, but there was no escape now. Ada approached her, her eyes searching. "We need to talk. There's something I've been meaning to ask you." Lami nodded nervously, and they found a quiet corner of the market to sit. "I've been thinking about everything that happened," Ada began. "The rumors, the betrayal, and I can't shake the feeling that someone close to me was involved. Please, Lami, if you know anything, tell me." Lami's throat tightened. The guilt threatened to choke her, but she couldn't bring herself to confess. "I don't know anything," she lied, avoiding Ada's gaze. Ada studied her friend's face, her intuition screaming that something was off. But she said nothing. Instead, she stood and walked away, her heart heavier than before. Lami's relationship with Dyke grew increasingly troubling. His once charming demeanor had turned dark and manipulative. He pressured her to seek power and wealth, promising that she could rise above her circumstances if she listened to him. But Lami was beginning to see through his facade. One evening, she followed him as he met with a group of shady figures in a hidden part of the city. What she overheard sent chills down her spine. "We'll use her guilt to our advantage," Dyke said, his voice cold. "Once she's completely under my control, she'll do whatever I ask." Lami realized that she had been nothing more than a pawn in Dyke's game. Anger and fear surged through her, but she knew she had to tread carefully. Meanwhile, King Obi had been investigating the source of the rumors that had tarnished Ada's name. His advisors uncovered evidence of Dyke's involvement, and the king realized he had been manipulated. Seeking redemption, King Obi went to Ada's family home. "I made a mistake," he admitted. "I should have trusted you. Please, let me make it right." Ada listened, her expression unreadable. "Trust isn't something you can demand, Your Majesty. It's something you earn. If you truly want to make amends, prove that you're worthy of it." The king vowed to do just that. News of Lami's betrayal began to spread when Dyke, in a twisted act of revenge, revealed her role in the rumors about Ada. The city turned against Lami, and she became a pariah. People whispered behind her back, vendors refused to sell to her, and even her family distanced themselves from her. Alone and ashamed, Lami realized the full extent of what she had lost. She thought about leaving Iolu, but something kept her rooted to the city. Perhaps it was the hope of making things right. Ada faced a difficult choice. The truth about Lami's betrayal had come to light, and the city demanded justice. But Ada was torn between anger and the memories of their once unbreakable bond. One evening, as she sat by the river, she confided in her mother. "I don't know what to do," Ada said. "Lami hurt me deeply, but I can't forget all the good times we shared." Her mother placed a hand on her shoulder. "Forgiveness is not for the weak, my child. But forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It's up to you to decide what kind of future you want." Just as Ada began to consider reconciliation, Dyke unleashed his ultimate plan. He spread lies about both Lami and Ada, accusing them of plotting to overthrow King Obi. The city was thrown into chaos, and both women found themselves targeted by angry mobs. Forced to flee, Ada and Lami crossed paths once again. "We need to work together," Ada said, her voice firm. "Dyke is the real enemy here." Lami nodded, tears streaming down her face. "I'm so sorry, Ada. I never meant for any of this to happen." Ada didn't respond, but the determination in her eyes showed that she was ready to fight for both their lives. As Dyke confronts Lami and Ada in an abandoned warehouse, with a sinister smile, he reveals a shocking secret about their past. A secret that changes everything they thought they knew about each other. "Did you really think your story started here?" Dyke sneered. "You have no idea how deep this goes." Dyke's revelation left Lami and Ada frozen in shock. "You two were never just ordinary friends," Dyke said, his voice dripping with malice. "Your bond was forged by something much deeper, something your families have kept from you." "What are you talking about?" Ada demanded, her voice trembling. Dyke smirked, pulling out a faded letter. "Your mothers made a pact years ago, a vow to protect a secret about your lineage. One of you is of royal blood, but they hid it to shield you from the dangers of the court. And now, that secret will be your undoing." The words hit them like a thunderclap. Lami and Ada stared at each other, their minds reeling. Could this be true? Could their lifelong bond have been built on a lie? "Who?" Lami asked, her voice barely a whisper. Dyke laughed. "Ah, but where's the fun in telling you now? Let's see if you're clever enough to figure it out." The tension between Lami and Ada reached a breaking point. For the first time, they questioned everything about their friendship. Ada, with her natural grace and charm, wondered if she was the one with royal blood. Lami, with her cleverness and resilience, began to feel like her entire life had been a struggle to live up to a legacy she never knew existed. "I trusted you," Ada said bitterly one evening as they hid in a rundown house on the outskirts of the city. "And I've paid for my mistakes," Lami shot back, her guilt giving way to frustration. "But we can't let Dyke win. Whatever the truth is, we need to find it ourselves." Their uneasy truce was the only thing keeping them alive as they worked together to uncover the truth about their past. Desperate for answers, Ada and Lami snuck back into the city to confront their mothers. In the safety of the night, they met with Ada's mother, who looked visibly shaken when they brought up Dyke's claims. "It wasn't supposed to come to this," she said, tears in her eyes. "Yes, there was a pact, a promise made to protect you both. But it wasn't about royal blood. It was about saving you from the curse." "The curse?" Lami asked, her heart racing. Ada's mother explained that years ago, their ancestors had offended a powerful sorcerer. In retaliation, he placed a curse on their bloodline. Two girls, born in the same generation, would share a bond so strong that breaking it would bring ruin not only to them but to everyone around them. You were raised together to strengthen that bond, she said, but jealousy and betrayal have weakened it. If you don't find a way to heal, the curse will destroy not just you but the entire city. True to the curse, the city of Eziolu began to spiral into chaos. Crops withered, markets went empty, and tensions rose among the people. Blaming Ada and Lami for their misfortune, mobs roamed the streets demanding justice. King Obi, now desperate to restore order, sought out Ada and Lami. I don't know the full story, he said, but whatever this is, it needs to end. The fate of the city depends on it. Forced into an uneasy alliance with the king, the two women realized that the only way to save Eziolu was to confront Dyke and break the curse at its source. Dyke, anticipating their move, prepared for their arrival. He had gathered a group of loyal followers, all of whom sought to overthrow the monarchy and seize power. Ada, Lami, and King Obi arrived at Dyke's hideout under the cover of night. A fierce battle ensued, with the king's guards clashing against Dyke's men. Amid the chaos, Lami and Ada found themselves face to face with Dyke. You think you can stop this? Dyke sneered. The bond between you is already broken. You've doomed yourselves, and this city. No, Ada said firmly. Our bond may be damaged, but it's not broken. We're stronger than you think. Lami, tears in her eyes, turned to Ada. I'm sorry. For everything. I let my jealousy destroy what we had, but I won't let it destroy us now. Ada nodded, gripping her friend's hand. We'll face this together. In a climactic moment, the two women channeled the strength of their bond, confronting the curse head-on. Dyke, unprepared for the power of their unity, was defeated. With Dyke gone and the curse broken, the city of Eziolu began to heal. The people, witnessing the courage and sacrifice of Ada and Lami, welcomed them back as heroes. King Obi, impressed by Ada's resilience and leadership, renewed his proposal. This time, Ada accepted, but only on the condition that she would have a voice in the kingdom's decisions. As for Lami, she found a new purpose, using her wit and resourcefulness to help rebuild the city. Though their paths had diverged, their bond remained unshaken, a testament to the power of forgiveness and friendship. Despite their triumph, one question lingered. Who was the rightful heir to the royal bloodline? The truth, hidden for generations, remained buried, adding an air of mystery to their story. The tale of Ada and Lami became a legend in Eziolu, a reminder of the dangers of envy, the strength of unity, and the enduring power of friendship. And though their story seemed to end, whispers of new challenges on the horizon hinted that this was only the beginning. Months after the defeat of Dyke and the breaking of the curse, Eziolu thrived. Markets bustled, crops flourished, and the people praised Ada and Lami for their bravery. But beneath the surface, unrest brewed. Lami began noticing strange occurrences. A shadowy figure seemed to follow her wherever she went, vanishing the moment she turned to confront it. Whispers filled the air, of unrest in neighboring cities and of a hidden enemy plotting revenge. One evening, while sorting goods in her shop, a hooded stranger entered. He placed a sealed letter on the counter and left without a word. Lami opened it cautiously. The message read, "You may have defeated one enemy, but the true threat is closer than you think. Beware of those you trust the most." Her heart raced. Was this a threat? A warning? She decided to confide in Ada, but the weight of their past still lingered. At the palace, Ada adjusted to her new role as King Obi's fiancée. Though the king adored her and valued her counsel, not everyone in the court welcomed her presence. Lady Ijeoma, a powerful noblewoman with ambitions of her own, made her disdain for Ada clear. "A commoner doesn't belong here," she said during a council meeting. "She may have the king's favor, but that doesn't make her worthy." Ada, determined to prove herself, worked tirelessly to win over the court. She used her connections in the city to bridge the gap between the palace and the people, earning their respect. But Lady Ijeoma wasn't her only adversary. Rumors of a hidden faction within the court, loyal to Dyke's ideals, reached her ears. These whispers left Ada uneasy, wondering who she could truly trust. The warning in Lami's letter proved to be more than idle threats. Strange phenomena began to plague Iolu once again. Fires igniting without cause, livestock disappearing, and a chilling mist creeping into the city at night. Lami sought out Mama Eek, the village's oldest and wisest woman. "These signs," Mama Eek said, her voice grave, "are the work of the sorcerer who cursed your families. He never left. His spirit has been waiting, watching." "But we broke the curse," Lami argued. Mama Eek shook her head. "The bond between you and Ada saved the city, but it didn't destroy him. He's coming back, stronger than before. And this time, he's not alone." As Lami and Ada worked to uncover the source of the city's new troubles, they began to suspect each other. The mysterious letter, the tension in the palace, and the resurgence of the curse tested their fragile trust. One evening, Ada confronted Lami. "You've been distant lately," she said. "What aren't you telling me?" Lami bristled. "I could ask you the same thing. You're surrounded by people who hate me. How do I know you're not turning them against me?" The argument escalated, old wounds resurfacing. Just as their voices reached a fever pitch, a deafening roar shook the ground. The sorcerer had returned, his power more terrifying than ever. The sorcerer's apparition appeared in the sky above the city, his voice echoing through the streets. "You thought you could defeat me with your fragile bond," he sneered. "But bonds can be broken. Trust can be shattered. If you wish to save your city, bring me the one with royal blood. Only their sacrifice will appease me." Panic spread like wildfire. The people turned on Lami and Ada, demanding answers. "Who is it?" they shouted. "Who will save us?" Ada and Lami stood together, their bond tested once again. "We can't let him win," Ada whispered. "But what if he's right?" Lami replied, fear in her eyes. "What if one of us has to die?" Determined to protect each other, Ada and Lami embarked on a journey to find the truth about their lineage and the source of the sorcerer's power. Their search led them to an ancient temple deep in the forest, where they discovered the story of the curse's origin. The sorcerer had once been a powerful priest who felt betrayed by the royal family. His curse was born of hatred, but it also held a hidden key, an ancient relic that could destroy him forever. The relic is hidden in the palace, Lami realized, but we'll have to face the court and the sorcerer to retrieve it. As they returned to Iolu, they found the city in chaos. The sorcerer's followers had infiltrated the palace, holding the king and his advisors hostage. Ada and Lami fought their way through the palace, their bond stronger than ever. With the help of loyal guards and townspeople, they reached the royal chambers, where the relic was hidden. But just as they uncovered it, Lady Igioma appeared, revealing herself as the sorcerer's most devoted ally. "You should have stayed in your place," she hissed, attacking them with dark magic. Battle was a clash of light and darkness. Lami and Ada, wielding the relic, faced off against the sorcerer and Lady Igioma. The city watched in terror as the skies darkened and the earth shook. It was their unbreakable bond that turned the tide. Together, they activated the relic, unleashing a wave of light that banished the sorcerer and his followers forever. But the victory came at a cost. The relic shattered, leaving behind a new mystery, and the question of who among them was truly of royal blood. Iolu celebrated its heroes, but Ada and Lami knew their journey wasn't over. The scars of the battle remained, and the secrets of their past still lingered. As they stood together on the palace balcony, overlooking their city, Ada turned to Lami. "No matter what comes next, we face it together." Lami nodded. Together,